What's going on, everyone? In this video, I'm going to walk you through another one of my full body training sessions in an attempt at showing you how I'm currently aiming to train as efficiently as possible in this super early stage of my natural bodybuilding competition prep. As I am currently losing body fat from being in a caloric deficit, my intention with training is to get a great stimulus for muscle retention and maybe even, if I'm lucky, get a little bit of muscle growth stimulus in there too, since I am very early in the fat loss process. That said, I'm admittedly feeling some nagging pain in my right hip. Probably as a result of pushing my limits for so long with my Bulgarian split squats, which is leaving me having to modify my program a little bit. Although I try to prevent them as much as I possibly can, of course, every now and again I still do run into some nagging pains, probably as a byproduct of just training hard as much as I can get away with. And of course I am human, so I do make mistakes sometimes in my training sessions as well.
Oh, idiot.
Without sugarcoating it, nagging pains do suck when they happen. Usually it means, at least for me, that I have to interrupt my progress to make some kind of a modification. But I have found that they aren't often a huge deal as long as I react quickly and modify my program so that not only do I avoid making the injury worse, but I actually allow the injury to heal. And ironically, sometimes I even find that nagging pains or injuries are kind of a blessing in disguise. From experiencing my fair share of nagging pains and injuries over the past years, for each one of them, I've been kind of forced to react by modifying my program or the way that I move in ways that have kind of taught me how to move more efficiently so that I can actually get a better muscle growth stimulus, but in a way that makes the exercise less injurious overall, decreasing the risk of running into that same nagging pain or injury again. So in short, these nagging pains have almost taught me how to train more effectively. Anyhow, let's just go ahead and dive into the training session, and I'll show you exactly what I'm doing in response to the hip pain that I've been experiencing. Let's dive in. Usually for this session, I would start with deficit Bulgarian split squats, but because of the hip pain, I've substituted that movement with the leg press. As long as I move with a controlled tempo and don't lift too heavy, I can still push myself very hard on this without any pain. From my experience, moving with a controlled tempo, pauses, and often higher rep targets using lighter loads often works great when recovering from a nagging pain or injury. Although the lower body stimulus I get from doing this is different than what I would experience from doing split squats, the leg press is still a great substitution. With the leg press, my quads and adductors are still getting hit very hard, just like they would when doing split squats. My glutes, though, are probably getting just a moderate amount of stimulus, and my hamstrings are probably not getting really any stimulus at all. That's a bit different than split squats, where I would be getting tons of stimulus for my glutes and still a high amount of stimulus for the short head of my biceps femoris, which is one of the heads of the hamstrings. Since I'm probably not getting as good of a stimulus for my glutes or with my hamstrings, I've made an additional change to my program to make up for that. To make up for some of the missing stimulus for my glutes and hamstrings, I've also added in these 45-degree hips extensions into this training session. I think a lot of people find themselves a bit confused as to what muscles this exercise is meant to actually hit. The way that I'm doing it here, I'm hitting my hamstrings and glutes with what feels like an emphasis on my hamstrings. The movement itself is pure hip extension, just like Romanian deadlifts or good mornings. Thus, it hits primarily the hamstrings and glutes, since the primary function of those muscles is hip extension. That said, you can still do this exercise to isolate the spinal erectors, so your lower back muscles, by intentionally rounding and extending the spine. Doing so would change the exercise to a name you might recognize, like hyperextensions or maybe lower back extensions. But again, since I'm doing these with moving purely from the hips and keeping my spine in a static extended position, I'm hitting my hamstrings and glutes with only a little bit of spinal erector stimulus. And again, in hitting my hammies and glutes, I'm making up for at least some of the stimulus I otherwise would be getting just from doing the split squats. Bent over dumbbell rows are next. There's just something special about these that leaves me able to feel my traps working in a way that I just can't feel the same way when using machines. That's not to say that machines are inferior, because they're not. They're just different. And my personal preference to hit my traps hard right now is just doing these. Not to mention, I also like that I'm able to experience a little bit of stimulus from my spinal erectors in addition to my traps from doing them. The combination of building well-developed traps and spinal erectors should really leave my back looking a lot thicker and more three-dimensional, which is an area of weakness from my last season that I have really been trying to bring up over the past few years. Seated dumbbell lateral raises are up next. I found that the secret to doing these to really smoke my delts is to take out all ego. Move with tons of control. Keep tension on the delts at all times. Refrain from doing any swinging. Pause at the top of each rep. Honestly, by lifting in that manner, I'm forced to lift with some pretty modest looking sized dumbbells. In fact, I prefer not to lift much more than 20 pounds with these. I know, they're light. It's nothing to show off to your friends with. But I'm telling you, it hits hard. In moving with this style, I also love to do drop sets, myo rep sets, and lengthen partials with these to really take my delts as far as they can possibly go. Like my back thickness, my delts have been a past area of weakness that I've been working to bring up over the past few years, and think that doing lateral raises like this has been making a pretty big difference. Cable rows are up next. I've actually just switched grips with these from the close neutral grip to using a mid-range overhand straighter grip. Honestly, after having used the neutral grip for so long, it was starting to feel a bit stale. Switching to a different grip is all I really needed to do to make the exercise feel a bit more stimulative again. You might notice that as I do these, I lean forward and allow my spine to round forward. In doing so, I'm biasing my lower lats. One of the cool parts about rowing variations is you can manipulate your body position in different ways to bias different parts of the back more or less. If I kept my torso more upright without leaning forward and with pulling the attachment higher up to my chest, for example, I would probably bias my traps a bit more and hit my lower lats a little bit less, or a lot less. And deficit push-ups are up next. To hit my chest, my program currently consists of just 3 exercises: flat dumbbell bench press, incline dumbbell bench press, and these deficit push-ups. No flies and no barbell bench presses. Why no flies? Well, both machines and cables usually seem to hit my biceps more than I'd like, more so than my chest. And with dumbbells, I feel like I can't hit my chest as hard as I could otherwise be hitting it with a press. So I just do dumbbell bench presses instead. And why not barbell bench press? I do love the exercise, but I find that I don't have as good of a mind-muscle connection with my chest compared to using dumbbells or doing deficit push-ups. Plus, even though I love aiming to lift heavier and heavier when doing barbell bench presses, I find that eventually my elbows start hurting after progressing for long enough with increasing the load. So since I'm able to progress for longer without elbow pain, both with these deficit push-ups and dumbbell bench presses, and because those exercises leave me with the best mind-muscle connection with my chest, I just do them. And that's the session. Although I should mention, I also did some machine shoulder shrugs to hit my trap ones at the end of the workout that I just missed filming. I hope that you found this training commentary to be helpful and that there's something in it that might benefit your own training. I'd love to know what you thought about it. Was there anything in there in particular that you found to be helpful? Do you have any questions about the way that I go about my training? Let me know in the comments. And just before we come to the end of this video, I wanted to quickly let you know about the work that I do. When I'm not making YouTube videos, recording podcast episodes, or making Instagram content, I work full-time as an online physique coach, where I help my clients to accomplish their fat loss and muscle growth goals through optimizing their approach to strength training and nutrition. I've been doing this work since 2018 and love helping my clients to transform their bodies and ultimately their lives. If you've been considering getting some help with accomplishing your own physique goals, you can go ahead and click the link in the description below to learn a little bit more about the work that I do and the help that I could offer you. You can also use that link to schedule a free video consultation with me. And lastly, if you have any questions about my coaching or how I can help you, you can email me at sam@jadeathletics.ca. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.